And I want to keep my rule.
Yeah.
I just want to listen.
I don't feel like there's any danger of you not keeping the rule. I just felt like when I read what you wrote, I think I wrote this to you, which was like, I've been in that place where I'm like, oh, this is, for me, a revolutionary idea.
Yeah.
And, but when I read it, so I didn't think there was any malicious intent. I felt very much like I've been there. But I also was reminded about, like, kind of things when I think back to when I thought in that way more and was maybe a little bit less exposed to the areas I've been exposed to now, where, like, I thought that this was, like, going to be really helpful and couldn't imagine why would someone be offended by this. But now, like, being on the other side of the fence, I think, a little bit, being like, oh, dude, like, you just don't, like, how much you don't understand the experience of the person who's gone through this. And this actually comes off, like talking down, like condescending, even though I know that's not what you meant, but that's how it comes off.
Yeah.
And then, and so then when I went and looked through the chat, I was like, yeah, that's, seems like everyone's kind of
a lot of people
saying
felt that way, yeah.
And so I don't know, and so when you said, hey, I guess I should learn, I was like, oh, cool, then I'm the guy, I've always been that guy. Whatever side of the fence I was on, I was always excited to hang out and talk to people, so, and I still like doing that, so, man, how's a Facebook post impact people so much? I mean, to be fair, in my experience, a Facebook post triggered a lot of things in my life. When I said, hey, I don't think I'm going to Chick-fil-A anymore, suddenly there was a firestorm that you had to handle with me. Don't you remember?
I don't.
Well, the first domino to fall between me having to talk to you and, like, the whole elder board about my theology around, like, homosexuality.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and people were real mad. Brian Smith was very mad. He's like, you worked for me. You know I'm not homophobic. I'm like, okay, it has nothing to do with you. Feel free to ignore. But yeah, dude. And then, yeah, but
I'm happy to listen. I'm excited to listen.
Okay. I mean, do you have questions about, like, maybe why that post specifically didn't work, or do you have more general questions about, like, the experience of someone who's deconstructed? I mean, you said your brother went through it, so maybe you have his flavor, or maybe you don't. Maybe you didn't really. Well, I don't know what you know. I don't know where to start to like share with you. What are you interested in? What do you feel like you don't know? Or do you not know what you don't know?
Well, I think it's always good to, like, hear somebody's personal experience. So I'd love to just kind of listen and hear, like, your journey.
Okay. So I mean, like, I think a big part of most of the people who would use the term deconstruction, like, an atheist doesn't deconstruct Christianity. They just already are an atheist. It's those of us who are in the faith and we're in it deep. You know, the deeper you're in, the more deconstruction has to happen. Because, like, when you're in deep anything, decoding that is a lot of work. And so it's not like just like, I learned about how fast things would have to have evolved if the world was only 5,000 years old. I'm done. Like, I'm never thinking about Christianity anymore. Like, it's way more spiderweb than connected than that. And, like, just like any belief system, it's emotional more than it is rational. I mean, I think we tell ourselves stories to rationalize why we believe what we believe, but the belief starts irrational. And then I would also say, for that reason, perhaps deconstruction might start rationally, maybe. But it can't be done until the irrational part has been detangled. Or it might start irrational, but then you have to say, okay, well, this thing that I feel so emotionally connected to, but I'm starting to lose that connection, so why is that? And then we have to, like, unpack it that way. So it can go one way or the other, but both have to happen. It can't be, it's not just, this person learned about science. It's always has to be also the experience also falls apart, you know? So I think for me, you know, as I started to peel apart a lot of theology generally, I think opening, and I think you know me, dude, I was always pushing back. I was always, like, a lot of times I'll look back at stuff I wrote from, like, you know, 15 years ago, and I'm like, I think it's inevitable where I was, because I was always pushing. And at least obviously from my conclusion, if you keep pushing, eventually the thing falls apart. I know that's probably not where you would how you feel, but that's how I feel.
Sure,
now,
sure,
right?
yeah.
And so for
That's
me,
insightful.
like seeing that I was always kind of questioning, always kind of pushing. Where that took me was eventually me standing at odds with people that I looked up to, people who I cared about, and the way those people responded to my questioning and me pleading. Hey, if you remember with you and I was saying, hey, look, it's okay that we don't see things the same. We can still be in unity together, and we can disagree. We're not disagreeing over the big question, which is we're human. Jesus is God. Jesus is the answer to the equation of salvation, and we need to submit to Him. That we all are in agreement with. And if that's the big stuff, why squabble about the little things? And at that time, you did not feel that way, and so our relationship broke, and my relationship with other people broke, and I felt like that was really. It didn't seem like it lined up to what I had learned about Christianity, about how Christianity is supposed to be handled. And so those types of things started creating cracks for me to start saying, okay, well, like, what's the point of what we're doing? What is this whole thing? What is religion? What is God? Like, what is the point? How does it fit into our life and all of that? And so that process kind of started putting things that had never been on the table to be questioned, to start putting them all on the table. And I kind of started feeling like the more things I put on the table, the more the answers that were in Scripture weren't really sufficient. The answers that I had from my experiences with faith weren't really sufficient. I started feeling like what I had felt in my heart was right and wrong. Christianity made it harder to do what I felt was right, and it would be a lot easier to do what I felt was morally the right thing. Than being a Christian. And when that started happening, I was like, well, then what are we even talking about? So, like, on some level, and this is extreme, but on some level, John Brown is like sitting here, and I'm sure he had people be like, nah, God, the Bible says slavery is good to go. And John Brown's like, nah, and in fact, it's so not okay, I'm going to fight the government. And they're like, well, it says right here, we have to submit to the government. He's like, well, then, at that point, like, the Bible was probably a hurdle to him. And so I'm sure he had verses he would be quoting saying, well, it says this, or look at, probably looked at like different heroes in the Old Testament, how they pushed back against things. But like, there are points where the Bible was an obstruction to doing what I knew was right. And that when that started happening, I was like, I don't know what the whole point of this is. And feeling like, and God isn't like coming down to like tell me. And it feels like the farther I move away from wondering what the Bible has to say on this, the more I'm more easily able to do what I think is right, and I'm more happy, feeling more free. The whole idea of Christianity, from my belief, was like freedom, free from the slavery of sin, free from it. And I was feeling not free. I was feeling very constrained and bound to do things I didn't feel were right. And as that kind of, and those are all very irrational things. Those are just feelings. But like, so then I had to say, okay, well now what? Like, and so then that's when I started going down the road of, okay, so I'm left feeling like the answers aren't here, and that they aren't enriching my life. But maybe this thing's true, and too bad for me that it feels bad. That's true, baby. Sometimes truth hurts. Sucks to be you. So then I'm like, well, okay, well then now I need to figure out maybe this isn't true. And so then I start peeling back things like, okay, well, why the Bible and not the Quran? Why the Bible and not like the Church of Latter-day Saints? Like, what's the difference between them? And I really that's when I started getting into more like historical stuff, academic research about like the Bible and the Scriptures, and like what's true and what's not, and started learning more about like how much the Bible was written like hundreds of years after Jesus, and like how much like the Pauline epistles, like apparently everyone knows that Pauline epistles aren't written by Paul, and we just are like okay with that this dude is pretending to be, multiple writers are pretending to be Paul, and they're not. And like, so when I start seeing these things, I was like, I don't really know what to do with this. And then already combined with the push against like science, seeming to push back against a lot of evangelical theology. And I think for me, I had kind of already answered that by saying, hey, you know what, maybe our theology isn't right on this, but it doesn't really matter because it's not really salvific. Perhaps God used evolution, perhaps the world's millions of years old, whatever. So that part didn't really wasn't really phasing me, but like it started being less rational gymnastics to fit things in. Instead, I could just take things as they are, or at least as I perceive them to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so then that's when the rational and the irrational started to kind of meet. Then I started having an existential crisis where I was like, well, because what had happened with religion, it got Christianity specifically, is all about like less you, more God. Your wants and needs, tap them down. What does God want? You know. Also, I think a cool thing, a noble thing, less you, more other people, being selfless. But then like, why are you doing that? Because it's what God wants. And like, what is it? Having an eternal mindset. Don't worry about what's going on in here. Think about the things that are going to have implications in heaven. When I removed God out of the equation, everything felt.
Can we have another blue cheese, please?
So when you started removing God out of the equation, the things that everything kind of felt trivial, because no longer did I have God saying, "No, this is important. This is this is the eternal. You're the big part of my plan, Steve." When I took that away, everything felt trite and small, and I was like, "Fuck this! Everything feels really bad." I felt really aimless, but then on the other side, I couldn't build like the humanist atheist part because of like say, "Hey, yeah, you don't have God. That's okay." Because you're, that decision maker now. I couldn't get there yet because I hadn't really given up Christianity on every side yet. And I was really in this like in-between state where like Christianity didn't feel right anymore, but like I couldn't really believe in atheism. And I was really having a hard time. And I was really spiraling pretty hard. And I had this conversation with Elkins. And I was telling him about this. He goes, "Bro, you gotta pick one, man. Like you're really unhappy and you're not going to be happy until you pick one." And he's like, "I'm not telling you to pick Christianity. I'm still a Christian, but like, you might be happier being an atheist and just embracing that, at least for a while." And I was like, "Can you just pick?" He's like, "Yeah, you can just pick and just live your life assuming this reality." Oh, I'm so sorry.
Can I get you another beer? Or you're
No, I'm good. Water's good.
And so I was like, he's like, "Just try it on, see how it goes." And I was in therapy at this point, and so I kind of like was like, I think I'm gonna try, but then where do I go? How do I decide what's important? Like, what do I do? Because everything feels not important. And I have this great therapist. Her name's Colette Desmarnoff. Shout out to Colette. And then the best name in the game, Colette Desmarnoff. Pretty good name. She was like kind of asking me, okay, like, well, how is anything important to you? And I was like, I don't know. It's usually because I was like, oh, this is gonna help someone come to Christ, and that's what's important. And she's like, okay, is there anything in your life that you find important that you know right now is not important, but you think it is? Now, the Capitals just won the Stanley Cup, and that was very important, even though it's very stupid, and it doesn't matter at all. But, man, it's like the best day of my life when they won the Stanley Cup.
I cried.
Bro, I definitely cried. I was in D.C. boozing it. It was awesome. I helped people climb on top of an ambulance. And, yeah, it was a good time. When the mayor said the next day that no one got arrested and we celebrated like good people, I was like, no, that's not true. You guys just decided not to arrest people. People were acting very arrestable, but you decided not to.
That's funny.
Yeah. But, yeah, no. So I was like, this is important to me. And someone could tell me that it's not important, and I would be like, yeah, I know. It has no lasting impact or matter at all. But, man, does it matter to me. And she's like, well, that's, and also the year before the Niners had lost the Super Bowl, and I was very depressed. And I also knew it's stupid to be depressed about something that's stupid. That is the craziest thing that just happened. So the Ravens are on the goal line for a 1 foot punch it in and get a touchdown, and they fumbled it, and the Bengals just recovered it and ran it back for a touchdown. But it may have crossed the plane. They're going to review it. We're going to see. But that is what just happened. Anyways, sorry. So I was depressed by the Niners, and I don't care. I know it's stupid. It's dumb for it to be emotionally impactful to me that way, but it is. And so she's like, okay, so we know this thing is true. So you feel that way. You know this thing. So that is all it is. That's what we need to rebuild, is to start saying what's important to you, and it's important to you because you say it is, and that's all that matters. And that's all. Not all that matters, but that's all that's necessary, and that's enough for it to be important. And so, kind of, as it seems very cliche for who I am, sports was where I rebuilt my life. But anyways. Yeah, but now I think activism and politics have become even more important to me. My relationships and kind of like the chosen family, if you would, that I've built has become even more important to me. And yeah, and that's kind of where I ended up. And yeah, and so like when I read your post of being saying like, oh man, you just got to try the shoe on, it really, that's gonna make a difference. I'm like, bro, I wore those shoes. And they didn't fit. They didn't fit right. And in fact, they were painful. And so it felt like, and I know that wasn't your intention.
No.
But it felt like, and I think it did to a lot of people, like you're ignoring the experience that we did have. And possibly, I think what Casey was getting at was questioning the experience that we had. And like almost kind of like no true Scotsmaning our experience, if you know that. It's like the idea of like, oh, if you were true, like you weren't saying this, I don't think, but it begs the question of, well, either you experienced it and my thing is wrong, or you didn't truly like try those shoes on. Man, if you really tried them on, then you would really like them. So like it becomes this like circular reasoning of, I tried them on, I didn't like them. Well, you didn't really try them on, because if you tried them on, then you'd like them. I think accidentally that's kind of where you took it. And so yeah. I don't know. Does any of that feel like it gives you insight at all?
No, that's helpful.
Does it help? Is it begging new questions for you?
I'd have to think about it some, but no, I think it's really helpful to hear his story. And I think that last part you're mentioning is really good too. I can see how that would really have been hard for some people to read.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like
that makes sense.
I do wonder, because as long as I've known you, you've always been a person, like applied theology is really at the core of who you've always been. Like we can all talk. We can all talk about art. We can all talk, but when art actually gets applied, oh, we think art can change the world? Oh, we think art can change the community? Well, all right, here we go. And now you're mad about it. And I'm going to video it, and we're going to show what the real art is. You think theology? Oh, you like the idea of theology of beauty? Okay, well, let's apply it. Oh, it makes you uncomfortable? Like, that's who you've always been, is that applying of theology person, I think. And, like, I think you've always been the person who says, an idea is only, I don't even know if you've ever said this, but I think it's how you act. Like, an idea is only as important as it is in, like, benefiting to people and how it really plays out. Would you say that that's kind of true about who you are?
Yeah, I think so. Just
like, theology for theology's sake is useless. Like, philosophy for philosophy's sake is useless. Knowledge is but a clanging gong, right? I think that's who you've always been, and so it was surprising to me that you kind of posted that instead of like getting out and engaging with people. But then I thought, well, maybe that's exactly what he's trying to do. But then you deleted the whole thing, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I'm really sorry I deleted it. I really didn't want to. I had to for...
You say that, man, but you've always been the rebel. Who are you cowtailing to somebody else?
Trying to not put myself first. Even though I realize we should, what we should do is post this recording. Maybe we could post it on your page.
Yeah.
And then we could tag everybody that
we can't do it on my page. Not on the very secret page. You gotta post it on your page. If I post on my page, the people who will see it will be very filtered to people that maybe aren't the people that need to hear this conversation. People on my page would be like, yeah, we need the people who are actually going to learn something from it, man.
Maybe we can create a new page.
There we go. Create a new page. You can't post it on your page? Why not? You can't post someone sharing their story on your page?
No.
You should just shut your Facebook down. You're done. There's no point for it anymore.
I know. It's hard. But